And we need 8 for quorum, or do we need 7 for quorum?
7 for quorum, so we're good to go
Okay.
now.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I will be calling the meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. Arizona time. First, we will begin with roll call. Adriana, would you like to do this?
Absolutely. Thank you. I lost my button for a minute. All right, Kevin Bond.
Here.
Tyler Denham. Kevin Doby. Karen Flores. Sandy Flores. Jackie Kellogg. Devonna McLaughlin. Here. Sarah Meyer.
Adriana, I see Jackie is logged in, but I didn't hear a response.
Oh, she says her mic isn't working. Thank you for the acknowledgement, Jackie. Did I say Sarah Meyer yet?
Yep, here.
Moses Malazzo.
Here.
Sarah Miles.
Here.
Corey Runge.
Here.
Jen Vargas. Haley Zoroya.
Here.
And Tyler Denham.
Present.
And Karen Flores is coming in right now. Karen Flores.
I'm here.
Thank you. And that is all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Adriana. At this time, I would like to ask for a volunteer to read the land acknowledgement. Okay, not having a volunteer, I'll go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. The Housing Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homes of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. At this time, any member of the public may address the Commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the Commission on this day. Due to open meeting laws, the Commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the Commission on an item that is on the agenda, please wait for the chair to call for public comment at the time the item is heard. Adriana, do we have any public comments?
I don't have any by email, Chair, and I'm not seeing any members of the public.
Okay,
Here.
Great. Thank you. I see a hand from Tyler.
Oh, sorry. I had my hand up for the land acknowledgement. I put it
Oh,
down
I
now.
didn't see that. I'm sorry about that. All right, we're moving on to item number 5, approval of the minutes. I will take a motion for approval of the minutes.
Also move, this is Devonna.
Thank you, Devonna. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion. Corey Runge.
Thank you, Corey. Do we have any discussion? Okay, I will ask for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I think that was unanimous. We have no action items for this month, so we will move on to presentation and discussion items. 7A is legislative priorities overview from Sarah Langley, our Public Affairs Director. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Langley. I'm the city's Public Affairs Director. Every year I work with the City Council to create our legislative priorities. So the housing staff asked me here today to just share a brief presentation on how that process works and how we use our legislative priorities. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Set up. All right. So the city has a legislative affairs program that works to lobby for priorities for the city. And we work with staff throughout the city as subject matter experts, such as our housing staff on this meeting. And we contract also with two contract lobbyists, one for state affairs and one for federal affairs. Sorry, let me go ahead and advance the slide as well. So the city is involved in a lot of things, and it's important for us to be able to understand what is the highest priority for our city council and where they would like us to focus our legislative efforts. So that is where the legislative priorities come in. They're approved by council every year, and they cover a variety of different topics that are of high importance to the council. Typically, the priorities include things like large infrastructure projects that are dependent on state or federal funding. And then they also focus heavily on the city's two declared emergencies, so housing and carbon neutrality. And then we often have some other topics mixed in as well. So these legislative priorities give us as staff and our lobbyists a general idea of where council stands on important issues, and if the council would likely support or oppose certain bills as they come up. It's important that our priorities are quite broad in nature and not overly prescriptive on specific items. Things change really quickly during the legislative session, and so we need to be able to react quickly as well to be effective. So broad priorities, and then we're also looking for priorities that are strategic and somewhat unique to Flagstaff. Of course, nobody else is going to fight for Flagstaff issues but us, so it's important that we are the voice for Flagstaff, both in Phoenix and in Washington, D.C. So this is kind of a snapshot of what our priorities look like. These are the current 2025 priorities. This is not an exhaustive list, it's just a screenshot. But if you want to look at the current priorities, you can go to this URL. Once the priorities are approved, they're uploaded online so that they're easily referenced for the public and any of our elected representatives who might want to view them. So now I'll share a bit more information on the process that goes into creating those priorities and how that works. So every winter, I begin to meet with staff throughout the city to see, what they've been hearing in their fields, what kind of updates they think might be pertinent to make for the priorities, if there's anything new that they think needs to be added, or maybe things have been accomplished that we can take off the list. So we begin that process working with staff. Then we go to our contract lobbyists and get input from them on areas that they think are politically feasible or areas where we might see some movement or opportunity within the upcoming year. After we have that draft priorities document, we go to council for their input and discussion. And this year, that's actually scheduled to happen next week during council's work session. And this is really the time for members of the public to share input with council, and then council can let staff know, what edits they have and what changes they'd like to see. After we input the council's direction, then we come back to them with a final document for their approval during a public meeting. And this year that will be December 16th that's scheduled to take place. So that's just a very brief overview of how the priorities are created. I just wanted to cover one more thing while I'm here, and that is this year, in addition to the priorities, which I mentioned are very broad in nature, the city is also putting forward specific legislative requests at the state level that our lobbyist is already advocating for. Council approved these, I think, in October of this year. And we did have one housing related request, so wanted to add that for your knowledge. As you probably know, the state's low-income housing tax credit program, the funding for that is set to expire this year. And unfortunately, no additional funding was earmarked for that. So that is something that our lobbyist is already working on down at the state capitol, trying to secure funding for that program in the coming years. So that's all I have, just a brief presentation, but open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Do we have any questions or comments? I see a hand raised. Councilmember House.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to put out there for the commission that as your council liaison, it would be great to hear from you in terms of specific housing initiatives and focuses that we could bring forward into the new year. So if there are thoughts or questions that you have on this, even if you can't formulate them now, if you want to reach out in the coming weeks, that would be very helpful and very, very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I do have a question. Wait, we have a question from Commissioner McLaughlin.
Thank you, Chair Milazzo. I actually probably have 3 thoughts or questions or comments. The first one is for Sarah Langley. I'm wondering how or if the city is able to move quickly if there's legislative needs that arise that are on shorter time frames. So I appreciate like looking ahead to 2026, setting legislative priorities. But an example is the new guidance that's come out from HUD on funding for continuum of care and restricting the amount of money that could be used for permanent supportive housing, changing things at the last minute, having requirements in the new NOFO that includes, you know, things that like states have to adopt and only 18 states have adopted. Like it feels like there is a significant and immediate need for advocacy at the federal level to stop things sometimes. And so I just don't know how or if the city could respond when there's an urgent advocacy need. So that's a question that I have.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. That's a great question and a great example, actually, of how the priorities work. So because we're in the calendar year 2025, we would default to our 2025 priorities. And both at the state and federal level, for the current year, we have very lengthy priorities for housing. That's a huge topic of concern for the council. So because of the way those priorities are constructed and their broader nature, those allow us to react immediately and launch into advocacy for the issue that you mentioned. We're actually on a meeting this morning about that to see what we could do. So that's why we construct the priorities in a more broad nature, because they allow us to kind of gather the sentiment of council. That council is very supportive of, you know, permanent housing for our community members, and then that allows us to react and advocate without having to go back to council for each issue.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification and for thinking strategically and broadly so you guys could react when needed. It's greatly appreciated. I also wanted to thank you for the example that you gave as far as advocating at the state level for the state low-income housing tax credit. I just want to say out loud that that the past advocacy is much appreciated, but the future advocacy to try and bring that back. I want to get on record that I support our city supporting that so much. We're the first state to create a state housing tax credit and then lose it, which is not a great milestone to achieve, quite frankly. So I appreciate the city having that as an advocacy priority at the state level. And just wanted to say thank you for that and kind of keep up that good work in that area, because I think it is something we need to focus on. And I'd also like to say to Kara's point, Councilmember House's point, that advocacy at the city level for more funding for the state housing trust fund is also something, I'm guessing your priorities are broad and that would fit in it, but I just want to say that Housing Trust Fund provides more flexible funding, gap funding, critical funding, and in past years, we've had higher funding amounts, and in this last year, it's ridiculously small. So just to keep having the city tell the state legislature that that's a funding priority would be greatly appreciated. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Just to note, additional funding for the Arizona Housing Trust Fund is currently in our draft priorities for 2026. So I'm sure that'll remain, and that'll be an important point that we advocate on this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, the one I was going to ask was about LIHTC, and I think, Devana, you answered the question I was going to ask, so that's fantastic. If we have no other questions or comments, we can move on to presentation on Flagstaff's affordable housing developments since 2020, presented by Aidan Rutledge.
All right. Hi, you guys. My name is Aidan. If you haven't met me yet, I'm an administrative specialist with the Housing Division, and I've got a presentation for us today. Let me share my screen super quick. All right. Can we see this okay?
I can see it.
Cool. Alrighty. If you've been following our social media accounts, you've probably seen the affordability spotlights that we've been posting. These posts highlights the developments that the city has helped make possible. And today we're going to go a little bit deeper and walk through the affordable housing developments the city has supported over just the last 5 years. As you may recall, the 10-year housing plan aims to reduce the housing emergency with a goal of 10% of all new units being affordable. And in the last 4 years, 22% of all new units constructed in Flagstaff were affordable, which is a significant amount given our constraints. If you are unfamiliar, an affordable unit is defined by HUD as not costing more than 30% of your income. By the end of this presentation, I hope it's clear how much has been accomplished in a short period of time and why tools like our Incentive Policy for Affordable Housing, or IPA, have become essential for getting units built in Flagstaff. All right, so before we talk about developments, I want to start with partnerships. Nothing we do in affordable housing is possible without our community partners. We work closely with organizations like Housing Solutions of Northern Arizona, Flagstaff Shelter Services, Habitat for Humanity of Northern Arizona, Catholic Charities, Native Americans for Community Action, Homeless Youth Connection, and many others. These organizations operate shelters, transitional housing, and other supportive programs that meet critical community needs. Projects like Sharon's Manor, JoJo's Place, The Crown, and The Lantern all exist because of these partnerships. They provide stability, safety, and opportunity for Flagstaff's most vulnerable residents. Today, though, we're going to focus on specifically the permanent affordable housing developments, most of which utilize the city's incentive for affordable housing. Okay, so IPA. Since Arizona state law prevents cities from requiring developers to build affordable units, everything we do in this space has to be voluntary and incentive.
I'm sorry, Aidan, I'm going to interrupt. We didn't move on to the next slide.
Oh, we didn't?
No.
Can you see it now?
I see them
No.
changing, Aidan.
Oh, I don't.
Okay.
I see it on partnership.
I see it now on IPA.
Okay.
Am I
Go
okay
ahead.
to move
I'm sorry.
on? You're okay. All right. Let's see where I was. Okay. The Incentive Policy for Affordable Housing was created in 2009 and amended in 2025 to help the city encourage developers to add affordable units within market rate developments. There's often a misconception that market rate housing doesn't help affordability, but increasing overall supply does in fact moderate costs over time. And incentives like IPA help integrate affordable homes directly into those market rate projects. IPA encourages the creation of affordable housing units with 2 types of incentives: financial incentives like reductions or reimbursements for development-related fees, and zoning incentives like density bonuses, reduced parking requirements, and flexible development standards, all of which also help make affordable units financially feasible. The goal of IPA is to lower costs and remove barriers so developers can include affordable units in a project that would otherwise be too expensive to pencil in an increasingly high-cost environment like Flagstaff. All right, can we see the next IPA slide?
For some
Yes.
reason, I have control over the slides. I don't know if others do as well.
Interesting.
Moses, I think that's a feature of the way that he's presenting. I wonder
Okay.
if you moved to the slides earlier in the presentation and something happened there.
Yeah, that might be. My apologies.
No worries.
No worries.
I'll say next slide when I'm moving on. How about that? All right. So IPA also includes alternative pathways beyond financial and zoning incentives. One of the biggest tools is the in lieu fee, which allows developers to contribute funding instead of building units on site, and those recent contributions are substantial. For example, a recently approved project called Pine Haven will provide a $1.8 million in lieu fee contribution. Developers of the Canyon del Rio neighborhood will contribute $600,000, and developers of Alara at the Sawmill provided $500,000. The housing division will use those funds for future affordable housing projects or programs. So even when affordable units aren't built directly into a development, the city still is able to gain resources that help expand affordability across the community. Go to the next one. So why do these incentives matter so much today? Construction costs have risen sharply in the last several years. Lumber, steel, aluminum, concrete, and other core materials have all experienced major price swings because of inflation, supply chain disruptions, and global trade issues. Builders cannot predict when materials will arrive or what they will cost by the time they are ready to order them. The construction industry is also facing a significant labor shortage. More workers are retiring than entering the trades, and when skilled labor is scarce, it becomes a lot more expensive. These ever-changing and increasing material costs combined with the labor shortages create unpredictable and high project budgets, and this is where the city incentives come into play. IPA helps close those financial gaps, reduce regulatory burdens, and makes affordable units possible within private development. And without these tools, we would simply not see as many affordable units as we are today. So on to the developments themselves. Start with Crestview. So built by Capstone Homes, this development delivered 12 affordable units, ownership units, out of 119 total, or about 10%. Participating in Flagstaff's affordable home ownership program, these homes are for households earning up to 100% AMI, which captures a large portion of Flagstaff's workforce who earn too much for traditional affordable housing, but too little to buy market rate homes. Crestview used several zoning incentives, including reduced setbacks, a height increase, expedited review, and a resource protection overlay reduction. And these are deed restricted units, which means they remain affordable for future buyers. And the final Crestview home sold earlier this spring. Moving on. Alara by McGrath Real Estate Partners opened in 2022 and added 34 affordable units at 80% AMI. These units meet critical needs for students and service workers who form a significant part of Flagstaff's workforce. What makes Alara unique is that the developer did not use any city incentives or funding. Instead, during the rezoning process, McGrath voluntarily chose to include those affordable units. They also contributed $500,000 and additional shelter beds to Flagstaff Shelter Services. All right, Miramonte at Ponderosa Parkway was constructed by Miramonte Homes and first offered affordable units in 2022. A total of 17 affordable units are required at this development, and the development agreement allows for a housing nonprofit to purchase units as well. So 4 of the units were recently purchased by Housing Solutions of Northern Arizona using Community Development Block Grant funds, and those units will be made a permanently affordable rentals serving up to 80% AMI. The development used the sustainability density bonus, which allowed additional units in exchange for meeting energy efficient standards, and 10 affordable condos still remain available for purchase. So Star Point by Brinshaw Development opened in 2022 and delivered 68 affordable units out of 77, all serving households at 60% AMI, which is affordable for many families, seniors, and workers who are priced out of the current rental market. The project was built through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, or LIHTC, which is the primary federal and state tool for building affordable housing. It allows developers to receive federal tax credits that help finance construction, and in return, they must keep a majority of their units affordable for low-income households for at least 30 years. Without LIHTC financing, projects with this level of affordability would not be financially feasible in high-cost communities like Flag. To keep construction costs manageable, StarPoint also used parking and landscape reductions. Woodshire by Brookfield Properties delivered 5 affordable ownership condos targeted at 125% AMI. These smaller format ownership units fill a gap for residents who are ready to buy, but can't afford a market rate single family home in today's climate just yet. The developer purchased the city-owned property and in exchange committed to delivering these affordable units under the Flagstaff Affordable Home Ownership Program. The first affordable unit was sold in 2023, with the last 2 selling by the end of this year. Aura Flagstaff by Trinsic Residential Group opened in 2024 and added 32 affordable rentals at 80% AMI within a larger 160-unit multifamily development to Flagstaff's housing stock. Aura stands out because the developer agreed to reserve a portion of their units for households earning 70% AMI and utilize much of the zoning incentives menu, including a density bonus, parking reductions, an RPO reduction, and a sustainability density bonus. Villas on Lake Mary by HS Development Group is another major LIHTC win, with 76 units, all 100% affordable at 60% AMI. These units serve lower income households, seniors, and individuals on fixed incomes who have the hardest time finding housing in a community with high market rents. The city helped close the funding gap with $325,000 in IPA funds and $397,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds, or also known as ARPA. LIHTC projects use complex financial layering, so even relatively small public investments can make or break the final budget. Villas also use density bonuses and reductions in parking and landscape requirements, lowering the construction costs and helping make the project feasible as costs rose during the course of construction. All right, so Habitat for Humanity, starter homes on O'Leary. This Habitat project delivered 2 starter homes on city-owned land as a part of a pilot program, providing households with up to 10 years of equity savings through this unique model. Starter homes are simple and efficient standalone units designed to be affordable for first-time homebuyers earning up to 80% AMI. Habitat uses a 0% interest mortgage and a $1,000 down payment and a $1,000 monthly mortgage to make homeownership realistic for low-income families. These homes are significantly more affordable than typical rents or mortgages, and Habitat's model helps build equity over time. Approximately 80% of each monthly payment goes into an equity savings account that the homeowner can access when they move out. All right. Sierra on 66 by Roars is the biggest affordable housing development Flagstaff has seen in recent years. It includes 221 units, all deeply affordable at 60% AMI through the LIHTC program again. The city invested $1.1 million in IPA funds to help close the financial gap that is often needed for these 100% affordable LIHTC projects like this. Sierra on 66 started leasing this fall. So Timber Sky is Habitat's most ambitious project yet. It will deliver 40 starter homes for households earning 80% AMI. 10 homes are already complete, and the remaining 30 homes are expected by December 2026. The city supported Timber Sky with $700,000 in IPA funds, $340,000 in ARPA funds, and zoning incentives like parking reductions. Timber Sky sits directly next to Sierra on 66 and Capstone Homes Timber Sky's single-family neighborhood, which together are creating a vibrant mixed-income community. The area now offers affordable rentals, starter homes, and market-rate single-family housing in the same neighborhood, which demonstrates the kind of mixed income neighborhoods we need to see more of in Flagstaff. Elkwood by Wexford Developments is a mixed-use development opening in early 2026 with 22 affordable rentals at 70% AMI. This income level is especially important because it reaches residents who often earn just a little too much for LIHTC properties, but still cannot keep up with market rents. Elkwood is the first development to be supported by the voter-approved housing bond through the Rental Incentive Bond Program. The project received $528,000 in a forgivable loan tied to extended affordability requirements, which means that these affordable units will remain in place for 50 years instead of the usual 30 years. In addition to the affordable units, Elkwood will include new market rate housing as well. Contrary to popular belief, this is a benefit to the surrounding neighborhood because mixed income developments help stabilize costs over time, diversify the housing stock, and create communities where residents of different income levels live in the same building rather than being separated into different parts of the city. The market rate units also help support the financial feasibility of the project, making it possible for the developer to include affordability at all. All right, so Isabel Apartments is upcoming. So developed by Housing Solutions of Northern Arizona, it will open in 2026 and provide 11 affordable rentals at 80% AMI. These homes are all 3-bedroom units intended for families. And in partnership with the Sustainability Division, Housing Solutions is also preserving an existing community garden on site that will provide gardening opportunities to both residents and the greater community. All right, so these are a list of projects that have been reviewed and approved by city staff and are now in the development pipeline. Taken together, they represent nearly 200 affordable units that will be delivered in the coming years. We have included the affordable share for each project, which ranges from 5% contributions all the way up to fully affordable 100% LIHTC developments. For example, Sky Cottages is an improved multifamily rental community that will provide 20 affordable units within a 200-unit project, which is a 10% contribution. And I'll give you all a minute or two to look at the rest of the projects. All right, I'll move on. Okay, so thank you so much for your time today, you guys. I hope the quick 5-year showcase demonstrated both the scale and impact of affordable housing development happening in Flagstaff, as well as the essential role our partners and incentive tools play in making it possible. Housing Planning Manager Jennifer Michelson and I are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? Got a question from Commissioner McLaughlin.
Hi, thank you, Chair Milazzo. So thanks, Aiden, for the presentation. It's awesome to see the impact that's happened in the affordable units that have come on in the last 5 years and the ones that are planned. I do have a few questions though. So I'm wondering from the beginning when you were talking about in lieu fees, is there a methodology for how in lieu fees are calculated? It seems like a big swing from 500,000 to 1.8 million. So I just didn't know if that was based on unit numbers or what they're asking for in incentives or something else.
Absolutely. Jen, do you mind jumping in for this one?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Devonna. In short, no, we do not have a highly specific calculation that we use routinely to arrive at an in lieu fee. It's usually we've kind of benefited from kind of like a loosely defined in lieu fee like contribution like language in order, to have conversations with each individual developer depending on what their capacity is and what else they're doing or not doing.
and I think it's proven pretty helpful in providing that kind of flexibility. If it was like a very, very stringent, you know, calculation with no exception or flexibility, we might not have had the success that we've had over the years. But I do think our goal going forward, when we're, you know, fully revising the incentive policy, we would like to seek out a more predictable formula, so that developers from the very beginning, if they aren't capable of, committing to affordable units, they can look at that math really early on in the development process and, provide that feedback like, yes, we can do this, or we can switch this around and budget for it. But I think it's a conversation I think we'll have to like really delve into as staff to figure out what's the best alternative when we revise our incentive policy. Because like I said, in the past, we've really benefited from some flexible language in our policy. Did somebody else have Justina's up. Okay.
Yeah, so hi everyone, Justina Costa. I'm the Assistant Housing Director for those who I haven't met yet. Jen's answer was great, but I wanted to add a tiny bit more to that. And that is because there's a very fine line the city can walk between requesting a certain dollar amount from a developer or providing a developer with a exact formula that they have to follow, since we cannot require them to contribute either financially and or through a development. And so we have had to, our legal department has given us very strict parameters within which we have walked over the last many, many years in order to get what we've gotten. So as Jen said, our hope is to formalize that process more, potentially with the new rewrite of the incentive policy. But again, it's going to take a lot of very careful legal work. So thank you.
And then as a follow-up, like I know those in lieu fees, because I'm nosy and I've asked, haven't all come into the city. It's not like you guys are sitting on 2 point whatever million of money. So can you talk a little bit about what has come in, or the process for when things get paid, and then a process for how any money coming in from in lieu fees would then go out into the community? Like, I'm just wondering how it works to come in and then how it works to come out.
I can take a stab at how we've been operating the last few years. I think most typically it's most kind of workable for developers to pay the in lieu, this very large in lieu fee over time as building permits are issued. And so we've coordinated that with the Canyon del Rio payment that comes in every time a building permit is issued. And with Pine Haven, we agreed to something similar. I think we pushed that payment out to issuance of certificate of occupancy, which was what the developer requested. That kind of a concession, I guess. It just gives them a little bit more time to come up with the funding once they start construction. So like I said, it's not written in stone. We're pretty flexible about how payment is and can be paid. Alara is a good example of that. Was one lump sum payment that we did receive all at once at time of building permit when they went to pull that permit. So we have examples of different methods of bringing that money in over time. Your question was about going forward. What was
Jim,
the
I
other
can
part?
take that part if you'd like.
Go ahead. Okay.
As far as getting money out into the community, that goes through the council budgeting process. And so as Jen mentioned, there's a number of contributions that come in one unit at a time. And so do we allocate $5,000 at a time? We don't. But when there is a larger contribution, such as Alara, for example, some of that money has been set aside to fund redevelopment efforts. that type of thing. So as that, some of the money trickles in, some of it comes in as a larger chunk, but that money is then distributed via city budgeting efforts.
And so is there any way for us as housing commissioners to understand, even like in the budgeting process or after the budget is approved, what has come in or what will go out? Like, it just feels like I'm not educated on this. So if somebody asked me, well, what about these in lieu whatevers, I'd be like, I don't know. And it would be great to know, even just as an informational thing of like, here's what came in fiscal year 25, and here's what got allocated to these housing programs in the next budget cycle, so we can be knowledgeable about it. Because I have to admit, I had no idea it went through the council budgeting process, and I don't know if it's a specific line item I'd be looking for, or a discussion at council, or just something that happens as a regular process that I'm not paying attention to. But I can see in lieu growing in the future, and so I just would love to be able to talk knowledgeably about what has come in or what might come in, and then what has gone out and how it's benefited housing in Flagstaff.
Thank you for the question. The larger contributions are so new. The 500,000, the Alara at Sawmill McGrath contribution was really our first at such a level. The others are coming in at such a small amount over time. Those, we have not programmed those funds until we have an amount that makes sense to program. We can certainly look at that. Staff looks at the fund balances, as does our budget team. And we can work to allocate those and let folks know what that money is coming in and doing. Some of it may not be programmed to go out into the community. It could be programmed to support other city program efforts, not outside of housing, but efforts within our own programs. For example, if we needed additional funding for the incentive program, et cetera, that funding could be tapped to go into the incentive fund. So there is not a specific line item in the budget. There's quite often times where we are reallocating money from one thing to another as needs change, et cetera. As we look at budgeting in the future, we can see what we can work in. At this moment in time, it's not a significant enough piece where we're seeking those. I was answering in general of how those funds in the future would go back out.
And that totally makes sense. I mean, even if it's like, yeah, we get it at certificate of occupancy and we haven't got it yet, like just knowing that is helpful. And that, you know, we're hoping in the next 2 to 5 years it comes in, like, you know, based on their development timeline, which we know we don't control. Just that, because otherwise what we see in the headline is like Pine Haven, 1.8 million. And it's like, yes. And then you're like, well, it's gonna come, you know, so it's just the context of how it's coming in. Is it in? Has it been spent? Just mostly so we can help share those stories of impact and excitement as that investment is creating units or creating affordability in a knowledgeable way. This is just one area I'm super excited to have this presentation because I learned a lot. So thank you. And then it begs the other question. So I appreciate the opportunity to ask them.
It's possibly something we could build into an annual update. I think anything more frequent would be not super meaningful. I think Jen and I discussed the build out for Pine Haven at one point in time, and given its size, it's possible it's a decade. Jen, am I remembering the right one that we talked about?
That might be Canyon Del Rio. I would expect Pine Haven to be finished. They're roughly, I think it was about 83 units at Pine Haven.
So I'm remembering a different one, but it's that piece of it could be over 10 plus years depending on development schedules and all of those pieces. But we'll take a look at it. And thank you for being willing to share that message.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Looks like Commissioner Denham's question was covered, so we can move on to any other questions or comments. Another question from Devana.
Sorry, I was gonna stop with that one and give other people a chance to ask questions, but nobody jumped in. So I'm excited about the data that was shared for the number of units that are out in our community benefiting folks. I wonder if there's some kind of opportunity to celebrate these kinds of impacts, like at council or in the community in an annual report, and to get a little bit more data. Like, I don't know if the partners that you guys have funded, like these property management agencies or companies, like are reporting back to you guys annually, if you know anything about the renters, like where are they working, or are they on fixed incomes, or what is their AMI, or the total number of individuals served in those units, if you got all the household sizes. Like, I just wonder about sharing this impact and celebrating it with a little bit more in detail and data that I'm hoping those guys could or are giving you anyway. So that, I guess that's my question, is how is this information getting shared out? And then is there any additional data that we could or should get to be able to show to like local employers? Like, did you know, FUSD, that 10 of your employees live in housing units that were created through, the city's partnership with private sector developers, or that out of these 200 units, 500 people live here, or, just to show that like when you hear like there's a need for affordable housing, I think we as a community need to do a better job of saying affordable housing is here and we've been investing in it and we continue to see outcomes and outputs. And this is the celebration. And I know we're working on that in our agency. So I guess that's a long-winded way of asking the question about how this is being done.
I can take it. Thanks, Devana, for that comment, because that is something that we have been also striving for more, is to share our story and to share the impact of what the city is able to achieve with its partners. And so we do have part of what the housing investment section does is we do track the data that you were referencing. The apartment complexes that Aiden was referencing are required to report to the city on those affordable units. And so we do have data, and now with our increased capacity, in our section, we definitely plan to share those successes broadly. So thank you for saying that, but just know it's coming. And just a little plug too, you can see also through our social media efforts over the last, I'd say 6 to 9 months. I mean, we're really trying to share the city's successes better and to promote what we do and how it's getting done.
Thanks, Justina. I just think it's such a hidden treasure that the housing section is, and the impact is so much greater than people think. And I know as a community, we can always focus on the problems and that we need more and the deficits, and it's just like, but I find it's easier to deal with all of that when we can point to the good that's happening too. And so that's where I just love to share in the excitement of the outcomes that you guys have realized over the last however many years. And when I talk to other communities, they always say, we want what Flagstaff has, right? We want ownership units, we want rental units. Like, how do we get what Flagstaff has? And I'm like, Flagstaff needs to do a better job of telling what we have, because, I don't even think those communities know everything, like know these numbers and these impacts. And then could like, here's the one page of how amazing, our investment has been and what that political investment has resulted in, or what the staff focus on affordability has resulted in. I mean, even if you're looking at like your planning department and you're like, gosh, like, I'm a bugger of like, we need to get plans reviewed and I need to get my permits drawn. And it's like, well, that's because it creates this, and we can help these families. And like, if you can share back even internally to your staff to say like, this is what you guys help do when you're approving a permit or doing a water sewer tap or whatever, like it's just the thing that I fail in and we're focused on. So that's why I was asking the question. So thank you for your efforts to get that out.
You got it. And just one thing to add too, I think everyone on this meeting should be proud, because Flagstaff is looked at nationally for our accomplishments. We present on panels, locally, statewide, and nationally about the successes of Flagstaff and the innovative approaches that we've taken to bring forward more affordable housing. So thanks, Devonna, for those comments. But yeah, we're doing our best, and we're going to start sharing those successes better for sure.
Thank you, Devonna. Thank you, Justina. I had a question along similar lines about data. I was wondering if you have the data and are able to tell us, maybe not today, but next time, if you don't have it immediately available, what's the percentage of affordable units in the past 5 years compared with all units that have been built here in the Flagstaff area? I'm not asking you to know that number off the top of your head, but if you do have a way of estimating or calculating that number, it'd be great to see.
Aiden mentioned it at the very beginning of the presentation. So over the last 5 years, Aiden was at 22%.
22%, yeah, with the goal being 10.
Of all the units have been affordable. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that in the presentation. I missed that. My apologies, Aiden. I thought I was paying attention, and apparently I wasn't.
Well, we were excited when we calculated that number, since our goal is 10, and we basically doubled it over the last.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and that's one of those things that I think goes at the top of that flyer that Devonna's talking about for the one page is, you know, in the past 5 years of all of the units that have been built in Flagstaff, 20% have been in one way or another affordable. I think that's a fantastic number.
Thank you. I'll make sure to include that on like some sort of one page or like at the end of all of the developments once they're posted, being like, this was the final impact and this is the implications of it. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from the commission?
This is Commissioner Runge, and I just wanted to take a minute to make a comment.
Go ahead. Thank you.
One, Aiden, thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful, and the entire housing staff. That is a significant accomplishment when we're talking about affordable housing, and exceeding your goals is just amazing. So I would like to thank you and your entire staff, and also the city itself for making these kind of contributions so that we can continue to grow our Flagstaff population in a healthy and manageable way.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner Runge. Do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, that ends item number 7, and we'll move on to item number 8. 8A is update from Housing Authority Liaison, and that would be myself. And of course, Sarah will jump in when I forget to mention something. The Housing Authority Board met on 20th of November to discuss and vote on a number of action items, including updating language related to the Violence Against Women Act and updating some operating subsidy, passing an operating subsidy budget, and a number of other items. There were several that we weren't able to do that were on the agenda, but otherwise we had a really good session with a lot of action items taken care of, I think, that had been building over time. Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. You were so close. You're so close. I like the team that we make on this, though. We did have some items that we postponed having to do with implementation of HOTMA, which is a HUD effort that HUD is not yet set up for us to fully implement. We need to adopt them, but we can't do them yet because the HUD systems aren't in place for us to do them. So we're in this kind of quandary spot. I think the other item that would be of interest to the Housing Commission is, and this will be going to City Council, so you may see it come forward. I'm going to give you a little background on it. The Emergency Housing Voucher Program was started in 2021. We received 29 vouchers under this program, required us to work with a continuum of care to target some of the most vulnerable households in our community. Households that were either homeless, facing homelessness, fleeing domestic violence, human trafficking, or there was one more category and it just escaped my brain. So some of the most vulnerable households in our community. The vouchers were not renewable after September of 2023, meaning if someone surrendered one, we couldn't reissue it. But the funding was originally to continue until 2030. HUD has decided to end that funding 5 years early, and which puts us in a bind because we have human beings living in housing, some of our most vulnerable, hardest to house households. HUD has provided a process for us to request a waiver to be able to add those households to our Section 8, our overall voucher waiting list. Usually, if you already have a voucher, you're not eligible to be on the waiting list. In this case, that program is going away, and the waiver will allow those folks to apply for, be on the waiting list. And then we're able to create a local preference, which would, and the preference language that we're choosing, rather than just a current City of Flagstaff emergency housing voucher holder, being the preference, which would allow us to issue an available voucher to those households to keep them housed so they do not re-enter the cycle of homelessness. And we broadened that language that the board approved, that it was any City of Flagstaff assisted voucher holder that is facing termination due to program discontinuation or funding shortage, so that if this were to happen in the future, we're not coming back, well, now it's this program and now it's this program. Given that this is a higher level change, approval by City Council is required, and I anticipate bringing that to Council in early January. So I hope for some of our partners that are in this meeting that we work with that are fully aware of how vulnerable some of those households are. This brings some comfort that this is moving forward with the goal of keeping people housed.
Great, thank you for that update, Sarah. Do we have any questions for myself or for Sarah?
Can I just say how crappy this is? Like, I'll put it on record, like to cut a program 5 years early with very little notice that harms our most vulnerable neighbors. And so I appreciate what the city and the housing authority are doing, but I don't know if this is an advocacy thing, but you know, it sucks.
Within the city's legislative priorities, you'll see things as broad as continue funding for, or pursue full funding of existing programs. We've had that in for a long time so that we can react to things as they come up. Working within the federal budget process right now is especially challenging.
Okay, we have Kevin Bond checking out, just for the record. Thank you. And the item 8B, do we have any updates from housing commissioners or other informational items from housing commissioners? I have a comment from Devana.
Hey, sorry, I know I've talked a lot, but I want to let you guys know that we did finish our rental attainability report here at Housing Solutions for 2025, calling local market rate and income restricted multifamily properties to understand what their current rental rates are, availability, and any other kinds of barriers for housing. That should be going out. It's supposed to go out this week, but I haven't written the press release yet. So anyway, what we're kind of seeing, I'll make sure to send the rental attainability report to Adriana to get to y'all when we send it out so you can see all the details. But we're really seeing kind of a stabilization in rents at this point. not seeing the, significant increases year over year, more of a mixed bag. Some have gone up a little bit, some have gone down a little bit, depending on the unit sizes. Still a challenge for lower income households to have enough money to rent. So Flagstaff renter has to earn approximately $78,200 annually to afford an average 2-bedroom apartment. So still not affordable, but not appreciating like we've seen in the past. We're seeing just under a 6% vacancy rate. So that's a little less than last year, but still in that healthier range. For a while, we were seeing like 3.5% vacancy rate. And we did see an increase kind of going off what Aiden relayed of the number of low income restricted units year over year. We did see an increase of 190 units in the last year, which is amazing. I will say, though, that it would have been more if not for the loss of 135 units due to conversion of 2 tax credit properties to market rate housing. So if we hadn't lost those 135 units, it would be even better. So a little bit of good, a little bit of a little bit of not so bad. But we'll get this out to you guys next week, but wanted to let you know it's coming.
Thank you so much. Tyler.
Yeah, I wanted to give an update on an item. So this week, Flagstaff City Council did the second read on a very strong middle housing ordinance that legalizes up to 4plexes citywide. And I wanted to note this because, well, aside from being good policy, I think that Flagstaff, as far as I can tell through research, is the first city in the entire US Southwest to take this approach, which is really impressive in another way that Flagstaff has established itself as a leader. And I also wanted to thank the housing staff and the Housing Commission because the interesting thing is every other city in Arizona is sort of having a similar debate about middle housing. And the conversations have been much more heated and divisive in all the other cities in Arizona. And I think the reason that such a strong ordinance was able to pass so easily in Flagstaff is in part because of all the conversations the Housing Commission and the housing staff have been leading with the community to normalize these concepts. So wanted to show that bit of thanks.
Thank you, Tyler. Sorry, it took me a moment to catch up. I was typing into the chat a brief, not necessarily 100% accurate definition of what middle housing is, because just in case not everybody is familiar with that. Do we have any other updates from commissioners, council members, or other members of the commission? Okay, I have one. Next week, the Flagstaff Shelter Services is going to open the Lantern, officially have the opening of the Lantern, another hotel turned housing. So just wanted to put that all on your radar. You can find information on Flagstaff Shelter Services website, as well as their social media accounts. Moving on to 8C, updates from housing staff.
I'm going to jump in really quick. This is Jennifer Michelson. I have an update that is very related to Chair Milazzo's comment he just made. This December 2nd, this week, Council approved an adaptive reuse bond program loan for Flagstaff Shelter Services Lantern project. We're really excited to have gotten to this step in the process so as quickly as we have. And so I've been coordinating with Flagstaff Shelter on, routing for signatures and everything so they can close and get those funds as soon as possible. So I just wanted to share that exciting advancement with our bond program. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Adriana.
Thank you, Chair Milazzo. I have some news to share that evolved this week, and it's about a housing resource fair collaboration that housing staff has been meeting with the library, both sides of the library on. We have chosen the dates and we are still planning it, so it's hot off the press. It's looking like April, the beginning of April. We're going to have a tabling event from 3:30 to 5:30, and I will find the date and post it in the chat. And then at the very end, we're going to wrap it up with another housing resource fair. These resource fairs are going to serve the whole continuum, everything from emergency resources all the way through home ownership. I wanted to share that with the commission, and we will be reaching out to community partners in the coming months so that we can continue to plan this and hopefully have others join us in this collaboration. And I just want to note that this is for Fair Housing Month. We're getting a really great head start, as well as National Library Week, which are both in April. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Adriana. Marissa.
Thank you. Hi. I just wanted to discuss the recent successes of our bond-funded chat program. We've had 7 closings since July, and we've spent, there's going to be an 8th closing here in the next week or so, so we'll be up to $379,000 spent in assistance. So I just wanted to note that that program is going really well.
That's fantastic, thank you. And Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my microphone still says it's muted. That's fun. I wanted to share with folks, we had mentioned previously, our new city manager at the time, deputy city manager, joined commission meeting a few months ago to let you know that housing would become its own division. And that has officially formally happened. The council voted on that. I would say this month, but it's only the 4th. So last month. And housing is now its own independent division, and we are made up of 2 sections. One, the housing authority section, and the other, the staff that you're most familiar working with is now called the housing investment section, with Justina being the housing investment director. And so we are excited about this change. I'm excited to have a different level of interaction with other department directors and to continue to further housing goals of council, the 10-year plan, and the community at a different level. So it's official. We told you it was coming and it has arrived. So thank you so much for the chance to offer the update.
Fantastic, thank you. I see no additional hands. I want to point out in the comments that Christine would like you not to forget to take the CDBG community survey to help inform priorities for federal funding for the next 5 years. And there's a link for that in the chat. And I believe I do not see any more hands or Cs or Qs. So I am going to call for adjournment at 2:08 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks.